I have cancer, but I found out that my wife was cheating on me, so I transferred my inheritance to. I was diagnosed with cancer, but I found out that my wife cheated on me, so I rewrote the inheritance for the children and didn't tell her about my illness. On the 5th of November, I got the news I had feared the most. Every single test confirmed the diagnosis: advanced stage 4 pancreatic cancer. So, in essence, this will be my final holiday season. Strangely enough, I feel an odd sense of acceptance. I've led a fulfilling life, and my dear ones will be looked after. Being a naturally reserved person, I hadn't mentioned anything about the tests to my wife, Emily. I didn't want to alarm her until I had definitive answers. So, I returned home early to have the necessary conversation. This was something I didn't want to handle over a phone call or a text message. As you might have guessed, since I'm sharing this now, my life took a turn in more ways than one that day. When I pulled up to the driveway, I saw the ostentatious, pricey car of one of my business associates parked there, adorned with his customized license plate. This was highly unusual. I accessed our home surveillance system on my phone and saw it was set to privacy mode, not recording. I decided to leave it alone and drove off to our countryside property to clear my thoughts. Our security system is mainly for protection, and I seldom check it unless there's a specific reason. However, I also enjoy watching the wildlife on the exterior cameras and find it soothing to watch storms approach. So, for my own entertainment, I had set up an additional video recorder to archive the footage to local storage, which isn't accessible through my phone. When I arrived at the countryside house, I opened my laptop and I reviewed the other server to verify what my instincts were already telling me. And sure enough, there they were, Emily and my colleague James, cozying up in the living room, sipping wine, dancing, and then heading upstairs to the bedroom. Apparently, they left the doors open because the microphone captured their activities once they were out of the camera's view. With the limited time I have remaining, I wanted to know the truth, but I didn't want the upheaval of a confrontation and divorce. Call me a coward if you like, but all the affection and dedication I had for her vanished that day. I experienced all the emotions you'd expect, but I know it's not my fault. I've been a devoted, loving, and attentive spouse. Now, I'm focusing on myself and what truly matters to me. I contacted my attorney, and we reviewed my will and prenuptial agreement. I explained the situation to him, and we started working on determining how long and to what extent this affair had been happening. What we discovered was unsettling. Either I never truly knew the woman I spent over 20 years with, or something in her had dramatically changed. For now, I'm not disclosing anything to my children or Emily. We never had kids together, but I have children from a previous relationship. I'm going to put on a brave face and get through the holidays, giving my children and grandchildren one last holiday memory with me. I'll be the doting father and grandfather and try to play the role of a loving husband. Some background for those wondering: Emily's affair partner, James, is a widower and hasn't remarried. He's a business partner, but not a personal friend. I don't mix business with friendship. I never married the mother of my twins, Jessica. It was her choice, and I agreed with her that it was the right decision at the time. My children's mother, Jessica, married a wonderful man named Michael when the kids were 7. Jessica and Michael never had children together. I got my act together when the kids were 3 and have been very involved with them since. That's when I started becoming the father I wanted to be. Jessica, Michael, and I are all in our late 50s. Emily is almost 55, and James is in his early 50s. Emily and I are both in our first marriage. We were in our early 30s when we got married. Update: my ex, Jessica, and I were quite young when we had the twins. They were an unexpected surprise, but we managed to make the best of it. Now, as I face my final days, I'm thankful for the life I've led and the people I've cherished. I continue to keep my family close and treasure these last moments. The twins are now in their 30s, and all the grandkids are teenagers or older. Every year, Christmas is a 10-day celebration. We spend the period from Christmas Eve through the 2nd of January at the farm. We cut down a tree together after everyone arrives, then decorate, cook, play games, and celebrate as a family. Laura and her husband John have been part of this tradition since I bought the farm. I remain committed to not telling anyone about my diagnosis until after the new year. If I told Laura, she wouldn't be able to keep it in, and I don't want to put John in a position where he has to lie to his wife. I want the kids and grandkids to enjoy the week. We'll have plenty of time to grieve and prepare in a few weeks. Emily's presence this week will just be a minor detail in the long run. Frankly, I don't care about her nearly as much as the rest of the family. The financial situation is quite interesting. Emily and I met and got married after we were both well established in our careers and finances. She had a good job with a great pension and 2 inheritances in a trust. Early on, we agreed, at her insistence, not to disclose our entire net worth to each other. We also have a prenuptial agreement where any property or trust that predated the marriage, and any income from those resources, are not considered marital property again. At her insistence, I provided both properties, housing, utilities, and covered travel, food, and fuel. Essentially, I supported her 100%. Her income and wealth were spent entirely on herself. She bought her car, clothes, personal travel, and cosmetic surgery. She's very attractive on the outside but has shown herself to be quite unpleasant on the inside. A few days after I got my diagnosis, I announced my retirement from the nonprofit where I worked. Knowing what I know now, I noticed Emily seemed a bit uncomfortable. I can guess why. I'd be around more often. Tomorrow is my last day of work, and then I'll be focusing on spending time with my family. I gave the camera server info to my lawyer and granted him access from his office. So I don't know if Emily and James have had any more activities, but I assume they have. At this point, I don't care. I know who I am and what I'm worth. And James is a significant step down. As flashy as James is, I am low-key. I drive a 12-year-old pickup truck. I like jeans, t-shirts, and coveralls in the winter. I know for a fact that James doesn't have anywhere near the wealth Emily thinks he does. How do I know? Since the trust has invested in his business, I get quarterly financial reports. I don't tell anyone how much I have, that's between me and my accountants. But let's just say the trust has been growing for 28 years. I live a modest life, and there's enough for my great-great-grandchildren to enjoy the farm and have their education paid for. Once Emily realizes what she's lost, that will be her reckoning. I just won't be around to see it. December got really busy. We did our usual social rounds these last weekends. James was at one of the parties. It was hard not to keep an eye on Emily and him. I don't think they noticed. With being so busy and wrapping up everything at work, I've had an easier time keeping it together. Emily hasn't expressed anything that would lead me to conclude that she knows I know. I'm not proud of this, but I still sleep in the same bed with her. I've been selfish with her lately. I feel like I'm using her, but she's apparently been using me for at least the better part of this year. I'm not as honorable as many of you have made me out to be. I hate this small amount of deceit. So don't worry about Emily getting everything because she won't. The trust is in great hands thanks to your comments. I've made arrangements in case my health worsens sooner than anticipated or if I pass unexpectedly. I've also set up in-home care for when it's needed. Emily will not be my caregiver if I become incapacitated. The lawyer will inform Laura, John, and the kids, and Emily will be blocked from seeing me. All important documents, valuables, and other essentials have been moved to a secure location. Finally, I've begun writing letters to each family member and Emily. These have been harder than I anticipated. Update, mission accomplished. We had a wonderful, drama-free holiday week, and I've made it to 2024. Apologies in advance, but I find humor about my condition helps me cope. I've noticed I'm being a bit selfish lately. Everyone left yesterday afternoon, so I only have a few updates. I'm not going to talk about my week with my family, that's something for me to cherish. Observations about Emily this week. I honestly think this is the first time she stepped out on me. Being with all of us the whole week seemed to take a toll on her. It's funny how, when you know something, a person's actions make more sense. She was secretive about her phone and stepped out of our family gatherings to get some air quite a few times. The best was when she needed to run into town and one of the grandkids wanted to go with her. The mental gymnastics she did to avoid taking the grandkid were almost comical. I have to admit I played along a bit by asking why not. So the affair is continuing. Now retired, she's been asking about my plans for the day or week. I go ahead and tell her, then ask about her plans later. This week I'll suggest we meet up for lunch since I'll be in the same area, just to mess with her. Unpredictability is a cheater's worst enemy. This morning I met with my lawyer. I made some decisions and asked him to draw up papers. I replaced my temporary will with a new permanent one, which has been signed and shouldn't need to change again. In preparation for all hell breaking loose, I had him draw up divorce papers based on the prenup and evidence of the affair. She gets nothing but 15% of our shared assets like housewares and furniture. I keep all my liquid assets, retirement funds, and items I purchased with my own money. If I push it, she's required to pay alimony. I've signed them and have a packet with all our evidence of the affair, holding it in case I decide to use it. I sold my loan to the trust, allowing the trustees to convert it to shares in James's company. Speaking of the trust, I've decided how I want it managed. I'll drop myself to one trustee. The twins will get the majority of the trusteeship, and the 4 grandkids will make up the rest. Laura and John will act as proxies for the grandkids. As each grandkid turns 21, their trusteeship will transfer from Laura and John to them. If a fraction is left over, Laura gets the extra share. I've planned a meeting with the kids, Laura and John, for next week. I plan on telling them everything. Then they have to sign documents and will want to know why I'm doing this. Once this is done, my personal value will consist of my liquid assets, personal property, and the money from James's loan. In the worst case scenario, Emily will get very little compared to the assets and value in the trust. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll disperse the few personal items I want to go to the kids and grandkids. Those are already at a safe location where my lawyer has access. Some of you commented on my health. To be clear, I'm not fighting this. I'm letting nature take its course, so I have no ill side effects from any treatments. I got tired more easily, and the family noticed too. I played it off as just getting older. I still have the cough, the one that started it all. It was my lung tumors that led to the diagnosis. I just played it off as a lingering cough from a past illness. I expect to go downhill pretty fast once other issues arise, but by then, everyone will know. I plan to spend as much time as possible with the family. A large trip with all their different obligations would be tough, which is why this week was so important to me. It was the last time I could be with all of them for an extended period. I'm thinking of a small trip for myself. We'll see. I plan to spend a day one-on-one with each child and grandchild. That's my next goal.